Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? There is a bit of a carousel spinning right now in the Saints receiver room. The good news today on Tuesday, it appears as though Chris Olave is going to play Thursday for the Saints. Chris Olave told reporters earlier today he has been cleared. He is no longer in the concussion protocol. He does expect to play Thursday against Arizona, which is huge for the Saints. We know Tre'Quan Baker will not be playing for the Saints. The former seventh-round draft pick, and this was according to Field Yates, who tweeted it earlier. Tre'Quan Baker has been waived by the New Orleans Saints. Baker, of course, served a 6-game suspension for violation of the NFL substance abuse policy. Once he was, the Saints got a roster exemption so that while Baker was suspended, they were able to replace his roster spot. He came off of suspension, so they had to make a decision what to do. The Saints are seemingly quite happy right now with Rashid Shaheed and some of the other guys that they have, Keith Kirkwood, Marquez Callaway, of course. Then Baker, who was a 7th-round pick, remember. So in some respects, this is showing you that the Saints are saying, we don't care that we gave up we used a 7th-round pick to draft you. It's more about right now having the best player, and the Saints oftentimes have done that, where they will stick to the best player. Now, another player that was an undrafted free agent wide receiver, Deontay Hardy, who's battling an injury situation right now. But this is interesting because Kai Harley, the New Orleans Saints capologist, is doing his gymnastics again. And what this may tell us about what the Saints are thinking with their contract as the trade deadline is approaching could be interesting. So Field Yates also reported the Saints have restructured Deontay Hardy's contract, and they were able to create about $1.7 million in cap space this year. So the restructure includes adding 4 void years to the deal. So basically, they added 4 years that go away and just spread out money over those 4 years, which allows the Saints to pay a lower number now, saves them $1.7 million this year. Again, Kai Harley doing what Kai Harley does so very well. And the reason that's interesting is because you might ask yourself, why would the Saints restructure Deontay Hardy right now? Well, the NFL trade deadline is coming up next month. And, you know, I'm sitting here right now, 2 weeks out from the trade deadline, and the Saints are at 2-4, and I'm thinking to myself, man, you're a loss away from being where the Panthers are. You lose on Thursday to Carolina. You need to start thinking about not acquiring assets, but trading assets to see what you can get in draft compensation, what you can alleviate in terms of salary, to put yourself in position to rebuild and hopefully behind who you think will be your quarterback of the future. But with the Saints restructuring Deontay Hardy, that's a pretty clear indicator. They're not thinking we're rebuilding. They're thinking I need to make room in the salary cap in case there's a player available that's going to help make us better right now. And part of me really respects the Saints' the desire to win now. Because we've seen in professional sports, especially with free agency, the way it's structured, you can very quickly turn a team around. Happens every year in every sport. And the Saints are thinking, man, we've been close for so long, we're a piece away. What if that piece comes available at the trade deadline? Look at the division. Even though you're 2-4, you're 1 game out of first place. That's one way of looking at it. The other way is you're 2-4. You lost to Carolina, who fired their coach. You just did something that's only happened 4 other times in the Super Bowl era, which is score at least 26 points, run for over 228 yards, win the turnover battle, and lose the game, and you did it on your home field. There's a lot of reason to look at this and go, yeah, this isn't going well. But the Saints continue to push forward, and restructuring Deontay Hardy is kind of indicative of that, saying, they're trying to create a little cap space. And I'll tell you, you may think, where are they going? And sometimes The NFL drops breadcrumbs along the way. And Jeremy Fowler at ESPN has a piece up right now where he's talking about the latest rumblings around the NFL and the trade deadline. And one of the things he mentions, and I'll read directly here, just 2 lines, but Darius Slayton, he's talking about the Giants wide receiver carousel swirling. He says, Darius Slayton is the obvious option. The Giants cut his salary to $965K after failing to trade him before the season. And he has some pedigree as a former 50-catch guy. The New Orleans Saints looked into his market in the past and could again. What I would point out here is the Saints are dealing with 2 of their 2 top receivers, with Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry both being injured. Now, Chris Olave has done exceptionally well. He's come along. Obviously, Deontay Hardy's injured as well, and we don't know what the extent of that is. You would hope at some point you're going to get both Thomas and Landry back. Hardy, we'll see. And Chris Olave is coming back. But you had built out this receiver room so deeply, and now, last week your top 4 guys were out. This week your top 3 guys are going to be out. Are they looking to add there? And Darius Slayton might be one of the guys worth keeping an eye on, according to Field Yates here. The other thing, he noted a few more tidbits. So Slayton, a possible target for the Saints, and he also mentions a possible trade. And this would surprise me. He writes, the New Orleans Saints' Marquez Callaway is another receiver to watch. He's the odd man out behind Chris Olave, Jarvis Landry, and Michael Thomas. He has a low salary, due $895,000 this year, with restricted free agency on the way. What Jeremy Fowler is suggesting there is that the Saints could very well trade Marquez Callaway. Now, I would hate that, because Callaway has proven to be a very valuable asset, both as a receiver, as a returner, and as a specialist covering kicks. He is, and yes, as a restricted free agent, you would have to tender him at a certain level, and he would cost more than he does now, which is less than $1 million. But he has played to the level of that contract. The reality for the Saints, though, is you have so much money invested right now in Michael Thomas, in Jarvis Landry, and having used a first-round pick for Chris Olave. Michael Thomas right now is your largest cap hit on this roster at $13 million. Cameron Jordan is second at 12.4. Marshawn Lattimore's next at 8.9. Ryan Ramczyk at 8.4. You get the point? You have that much invested right now in Michael Thomas, and then Chris Olave on his rookie deal, which was his cap hits $3.5 million. This year. So you've already got a ton of money invested in receivers, and that's not even counting Jarvis. Who's at $3 million. Can you justify paying another wide receiver who's at best your 4th guy? That's what they're thinking right now. And if not, do you trade him and try to recover an asset right now, sending him to a team that needs receiver help? Now, what would that look like? Probably a 6th-round pick. But is it better to trade Callaway now, get a 6th-round pick for him, get some compensation for him, instead of watching him walk in free agency after the season when, at this point, he's your 4th best, at best, your 4th best guy right now. And assuming Thomas comes back and Landry comes back and you've got Olave and Hardy will be back at some point as well, and you've seen other guys develop, like we just saw Rashid Shaheed this weekend. You've seen Keith Kirkwood hang around. The Saints have found receivers. So you have, this is the tricky conversation that they have to have. You have a guy that's outperforming his contract that you're going to have to make a decision. Do you pay him or do you let him leave? And if you don't intend to pay him, why let him leave without getting something for him now? And that might be where the Saints are with Marquez Callaway. Trade deadline is 2 weeks away. And the Saints look like, with all of these rumblings, they are going to be active in some respect and are positioning themselves either to acquire assets or to trade assets. But do not expect the Saints to sit on their hands when the trade deadline comes and goes here in the next few weeks. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.